Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. Total disbelief at Ford Field.
He may go all the way to the 20 down the right side, and there's Randall Cobb to the 5, to the end zone, to the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Welcome, everyone, to a Green and Golden Boys Packers podcast, a podcast for Packer fans who are not looking at Twitter right now and don't know that Aaron Rodgers has just been traded to the New York Jets. I am your co-host, Charles, and with me, as always, is Marcus. Marcus, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I didn't think this was going to happen before the draft. I'll be completely honest with you. I was of the mindset that maybe we would get a trade done day 2 of the draft after the first round was complete, but here we are. It's not surprised. Yeah, surprised. It's not quite official yet, but barring some really bizarre activity, Aaron Rodgers is no longer a Green Bay Packer as of today.
Yeah, usually when these types of tweets come out, it's basically done. So I'm not expecting any major changes. But if it were to happen to any player, it would probably happen to Aaron. So we'll leave that aside. We just wanted to get on as soon as we heard, basically, and kind of give our 2 cents on what we were hoping for in the trade, what we got in the trade, and who we think, quote unquote, won the trade. We will probably put out something this summer, kind of recapping like one of the 2 quarterbacks that we watched our whole lives, and probably a huge reason why we're Packer fans, right? I mean, obviously we're both Favre guys, but Rodgers obviously carried that on. So if we ever sound like we're kind of dismissing the fact that one of the greatest players of all time is leaving Green Bay, that's just because we're talking about the trade today, and we'll kind of get into Aaron leaving in the future. So, Marcus, overall, I mean, Aaron Rodgers gets sent to the Jets. The Jets send us, Aaron Rodgers and our 15th pick, our number 1 draft pick this year, number 1 first round draft pick this year. We get their number 1, which is 2 spots ahead of it, 13. And then a 2nd round pick this year, pick number 42, and a 6th round pick. And then next year, we get a 2nd round pick. But if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the plays, that turns into their 1st round pick. Initial thoughts. Do you like it? Do you love it? Did we rip them off? Did they rip us off? Was it a fair deal?
Excuse me. I feel like there's going to be such a wide range of thoughts on this. I feel like it's a pretty fair deal. We've been hearing a lot about how scared the Jets are that it's going to be a Russell Wilson type of trade where they give the farm away and he plays absolutely crappy this coming season. But then, to your point earlier, before we started recording, there was the Peyton Manning trade, and there was the Tom Brady trade, and there was the Matthew Stafford trade. So those were 3 in the last 10 years that, the team acquiring the quarterback came out with a Super Bowl victory,
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's pretty much in line with what a lot of people were expecting, a 2nd round this year, a pick swap in the 1st round, a 6th round pick this year. I think it's probably a pretty fair deal, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure, and it remains to be seen, but it doesn't seem like one team ripped the other off, in my opinion.
I think you're right. But I think you're right. I think it's pretty fair, but it's not a fair trade if Rodgers plays more than 2 or 3 years, right? I mean, if we get if we get what Tom Brady did, and I guess Peyton Manning is a good example where they got the Super Bowl, but then the next year got ugly. Stafford won the Super Bowl, but the next year got ugly. But Brady, Rodgers reminds us of Brady a lot, right? Where I can see him playing for 4 years, like literally at MVP level still, and that's where I just feel like the Packers still had that leverage, saying like, he had 1 bad year, and he talks about retiring every year, but so did Brett Favre, and so did Tom Brady now, and so did all these guys. Where I think the length of Rodgers still being at the top of his game is obviously gonna dictate who quote unquote won. I really wanted and still thought we could have gotten. I know no one thought this, so I don't know why I did. Really thought we were gonna get the 13th pick and keep our 15th. That didn't happen.
No.
We basically swapped picks. We moved 2 up. And Rodgers will play 65% of the plays, I'm sure. But if he does play 65% of the games, that's going to be probably a top, a mid 20s pick next year. Or maybe the last pick of the draft if the Jets win the Super Bowl. So, next year's first is still great. It's just, it's not 13. So I like it. I'm not as ecstatic as I would be if we got to keep both picks, but I'm glad it's done. I mean, right? Can we just acknowledge that too? It's done, and now we can kind of move on and get some weapons for our guy Jordan Love. By the way, hitting purchase on this jersey right after we get off this podcast recording. I want to be one of the first. Yeah, I want to be one of the first people who buy a Love jersey when it's officially his team. So I got to get on that.
Well, you mentioned it's finally done. I was watching the Brian Gutekunst press conference live. I mean, he kept reiterating, it's not a done deal yet. It's not a done deal yet. To your point earlier, though, I mean, it's basically done. You just don't want to count your chickens before they hatch. However, he was asked a couple of times about what this means for the draft this year. And, he obviously was really excited to have more draft capital in the next, for this year's draft. He mentioned edge rusher and tight end as two positions he felt were deep in this draft. He was also asked about whether or not he felt like they, according to David Bakhtiari, they're rebuilding, and his thoughts were that he doesn't look at it like a rebuild. He's it's going to be a new, younger team, but the expectations are the same, and he's excited about what they're going to be able to do. I have two questions for you. When your general manager says that edge rusher and tight end are a deep position in this year's draft, does that mean you think that we're going to take one of each of those early on in the draft, or that he's going to prioritize those positions in later rounds and maybe focus on a position group that's a little less deep?
I think edge.
Do we finally have a first round weapon?
I think edge rushers are the defensive quarterback, where if you don't have the guy or depth there, they're the reason why they're the most paid defensive players typically on the field, right? I mean, especially if you're one of the best, where they wreck games for offenses. So, if he's saying they're deep, and with the 13th pick, if their edge rusher, or I suppose their tight end, falls to them, I say they, specifically if they had edge rusher, I'm guessing they go get him. Tight end, though, I think your second kind of point was, hey, there's a lot of these guys and we like a lot of them, so maybe we can grab one that we really like in the second or third. So depending on the position, I'm changing my answer based on the position. Edge rusher, first round, tight end later, just based on those comments.
Is there a possibility that we get a stud wide receiver and a stud tight end in this draft? Is that possible? I mean, we have, 3 guys on the roster right now at the wide receiver position, and basically no tight ends.
Let me answer your question with a question. Would you rather have, knowing that who we have in the receiving room now with Christian Watson, would you rather have, if you had to pick one, another stud receiver or a stud tight end? Ball catching tight end.
I would probably go tight end.
Yep, that's where I was going to go too. I mean, I know it's so easy to compare and hope for, but look at Mahomes, right, with Kelsey. It's like, or San Francisco, right, with whatever his name is.
George Kittle?
George Kittle, thank you. It can be such a staple, right? And especially in this LaFleur offense that uses those tight ends. If we could get someone to basically grow up, two talented, Christian Watson, a talented receiver, and, tight end, talented, number 1 pick, to grow up with Jordan Love. I'm not picking Super Bowl this year, but 2, 3, 4 years from now, and all these guys are kind of hitting their stride and still on those rookie contracts. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
So it's hard not to get super excited about this because, right now we've got Aaron Jones. They restructured his contract, one of the top running backs in the NFL. We've got Christian Watson, an emerging star, perhaps. Romeo Doubs, who looks like he could be a really good number 2. And if we're able to get another receiver or a tight end that could be a game tilter. You're talking about an offense that could, it could rival, what we saw in 2011 for this Green Bay Packers offense. Now I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's
you got ahead of yourself there,
yeah.
but I like it.
So that I'm staring right at the cover right now. The pack is back, but it's just got me excited. Then we've got AJ Dillon obviously at running back position as well, but then we have a young running back in Patrick Taylor that some guys or am I thinking of the right guy, Patrick Taylor, who played a lot in the preseason and didn't see much action in the regular season. But I don't know, could this be like all of these guys are kind of emerging at the same time, and or are we going to suck for 2 years and be mediocre from that point on? I don't know, but the way this draft is looking, as far as the depth and the talent that we're in our positions of need, I don't know. It's hard not to be excited about it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Again, like you can't be mad at essentially a extra second round pick and an extra first round pick next year, right? You just can't be. Because look long term. Another pick in the top two rounds. That's not going to be a slouch either, right? So not just building this year, but potentially getting a stud or two to make us decent, right? And maybe next year kind of finished off with that missing piece. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm ready for football season. Let's get the summer gone, and let's get September here already, and let's freaking go, man. I'm pumped. Let's play football.
Let's go. Well, we're not there yet. Obviously the off-season activities did start last week, so we've got a chance to see the players entering the building and everything like that. But before this is going to be a quick episode. Obviously, we're just kind of reporting on the Aaron Rodgers news. But is there anything you're excited about, between now and the draft, or, thoughts on where you think the Packers realistically are going to go in the first round, or should we cover that in a different episode?
Yeah, let's do that in the next one. I do have some thoughts, but I think that'll take more than a few minutes. So let's hit on the next one. The short answer is I'm really hoping for some offense, baby. And let's get these young guys all growing up together, like I said, and let's just make this transition as beautiful as the Favre Rodgers transition. Let's just go back to back to back.
Can you imagine
NFL MVP grades?
Even if Jordan Love is just a solid, to good quarterback, they probably made the right decision. So we can hope for MVP caliber play. We'll see what happens. But I think as long as he's, he can be top 10, top 12 consistently, we're going to be in pretty good shape.
Love it. Well, I think that does it all. It does it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Green and Golden Boys. Marcus, as always, go Pack, go.